we're all sitting there at dinner, just awestruck by the fact that we're sitting at a table with Brandon Ebel. Tim does not give a crap, and so while we're all like, yes, sir, Mr. Brandon, thank you for having us. And Tim straight up just looks at him and goes, hey, I got a question. Why does everyone I know that's on Tooth and Nail hate being on your label?
Right out of the gates.
Yeah,
right out of the gates.
Yeah, like we had just gotten our waters.
Welcome to Church Jams Now, the podcast where three former youth group kids and current music nerds deep dive into Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. I, of course, am your co-host, Kylan Savage. With me, as always, is Mr. TJ Smith.
Hey, man, I was just dreaming about Catherine Zeta-Jones a little bit.
Oh, really? Oh, there it is.
I was a little
wondering
distracted.
what it was going to be. Hey, we were all alive in the 90s. I get it.
Right.
And we have beautiful producer Josh.
Hey, TJ, I was also using my imagination, if you will.
Yep. We were on that one together, buddy.
Yep.
Guys, it's here. It's official. Something that internally we have been so incredibly excited about and are finally excited, so ready to unleash upon the world. We are calling this month in CJN history Junezetta.
Yeah, that's right.
Josh, do you want to explain why we're calling this Junezetta?
I mean, it's just the perfect excuse to talk about Jonezetta for the entire month of June.
Hell
Why would
yeah.
we not?
We may have to take one derailment 1 week, but the rest of the month, strictly Junezetta content,
All Junezetta all the time.
Junezetta.
And to kick us off right, guys, we have not one, but two guests from Jonezetta. We have Ty Garvey and Kyle Howe.
Hello.
What's up?
How are you guys this evening?
Oh, man, I'm great.
Are you as excited as us to do Junezetta?
Man, y'all got a good vibe. I'm ready for it. Let's do it.
Okay, well,
Let's go.
I hope so because this is the most intensive kind of thing. The closest we've come is at the beginning of last year. We did an As Cities Burned deep dive where we went through their whole discography.
I listened to it.
Nice.
But we haven't had people from the band. So yeah, you guys are essentially co-hosts. So
Yeah.
so
Or
you know,
Junezetta.
yeah, you got to buck up. This is it. This is happening. You guys okay with that? We feeling all right?
I'm feeling great.
As long as I'm here with Ty, he's he's my guy.
Oh, I love that.
Hell
Some
yeah.
warm, fuzzy energy for Junezetta
That's
kicking
right.
things off.
I'm so worried. When I'm referring to the band, I will probably say Junezetta because we've been talking about it for months now.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
stuck in our
already
heads.
I already know it's coming.
Yeah. So before we get into the album that we're going to talk about, I want to talk to both of you guys briefly about your origin stories. I do have to say up top, I have to give a huge shout out to Jeremy from The Rumors Are True.
Yeah, man.
Because
Jeremy's a
Ty,
good dude.
you were on his show, and so we, Jeremy and us have never actually interacted, but we're obviously huge fans of his show.
Podcast buds.
He's a great show, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
He and I were texting today. Y'all should have him on.
Nice.
I want to.
we should.
That'd be so
Yeah, let's
He's
rad.
on
do
our
it.
list.
So I want to definitely, and I think we'll probably put it in the show notes. I want to link to his interview with you, Ty, because he basically covered your whole origin story.
Because it was
Yeah.
great.
Solid backstory.
So good.
Great episode.
So good. I even
thanks.
messaged him on Instagram last week. I was like, dude, your interview with Ty is so good. I hope we can live up to those standards. But
Fingers crossed.
Well, it's a different sort of thing, right?
right.
So
Right.
Jeremy's was an origin story, and this is more we get to dive deeper into the music.
Oh,
which
yeah,
we
we're gonna
didn't
talk
really
about
get to
the
do with Jeremy
music.
now.
But what's interesting about Ty, and I know it's a different podcast, but he has more than one origin story.
Ooh.
Ooh.
We about to get into multiverse theory? Are there
I love it. We've been doing
infinite ties?
we've been doing multiverse theory since day one.
Jonezetta is still touring, just not in this.
Just not
in a
this
different
year.
realm?
In
Yeah.
this universe.
Cool.
Yeah.
I gotta find my way to that universe, man.
Jonezetta was the first band to play on the moon.
No way.
It was
I can see it.
I love
monumental.
that. So since our show is about Christian music from the 90s and 2000s, I want to talk to both of y'all about the kind of music that you grew up listening to, and how did you kind of get involved in, like, quote unquote Christian music. Ty, I do know from The Rumors Are True podcast, I already texted Josh about this. You talked a lot about growing up listening exclusively to country music.
Exclusively.
Yeah.
So if you want to, derail us for quite a bit of time, I will talk to you about country music all night, and we can maybe
I'll second that.
We can maybe call it like a Patreon bonus episode. But yeah, so I want to hear a little bit from both of y'all. The music you grew up listening to, were you involved in church and things like that? Like, how did you get into the quote unquote Christian music scene?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go first. Exclusively country music. For me growing up, that's just what was on the radio in my house all the time. And then with a sprinkling of Boys to Men in there. I loved Boys to Men.
You got to, right?
Still do, if I'm being honest.
Nice.
And then, but yeah, the shift for me happened in about 7th grade when I saw the music video for My Own Summer by Deftones. And it just really like shook me in the best way. And I was just like, what is this? and so, yeah, I just kind of, that was sort of the beginning of my foray into more rock centric music. And then kind of on that journey, a couple years into that journey, my good friend Drew Mellon, who was in the band Color Revolt, he introduced me to, he came over to my house one day and brought this like tooth and nail VHS that had a bunch of music videos on it.
Yes. Okay. You talked about this on The Rumors Are True. It's the Tooth and Nail Volume 4.
Okay.
I found a lot of the first 5 of those on eBay.
Uh-huh.
So if you can't tell behind me, I'm a big VHS guy.
Oh, nice.
And I actually bought them all. And so, like, literally after listening to your interview, I was like, I have to own these.
Yeah, that was my introduction to like Christian, like alternative music. I think before then I was like kind of aware of DC Talk.
Right.
But then if you'd asked me if I knew any Christian bands before then, I'd been like, yeah, Creed. I knew Creed.
Right.
And and like that was it for me, really. So yeah, Drew introduced me to Tooth and Nail through that. And then a ton of bands Drew kind of introduced me to. Five Iron was another big one.
Nice.
I'm still a huge Five Iron fan to this day.
Not to cut you off, but Ty,
Yeah.
I think I also remember from that episode you talking about you were in a ska band.
Yeah, that was my first band.
Way
Was a
back
ska
in the
band.
day.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We were a ska
Cool.
band. We were awesome and terrible.
Proudly in a ska band.
Yeah,
That's right.
Tell me you were a
must
teen
come
in the
with
90s without telling me you were a teen in the 90s.
exactly. Yeah, so that was
Nice.
kind of like that was my introduction to that sort of world, and the same. Like I think Drew ended up inviting me to church with him, and so that's what got me involved in youth group there, and it just all kind of snowballed from there for me.
Everyone needs a Drew. Am I right?
Oh man, I still need a Drew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew's
Great friend.
We've talked about this, I think, a few times on the show of like everyone in their youth needs a friend that introduces them to good music and needs a dirtbag friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I think Kyle was my
necessary.
dirtbag friend.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Okay, well, that's a perfect transition to Kyle. I want to talk to you a little bit about your origin story.
Yeah, I was a dirtbag.
You were a teenage dirtbag, baby.
lived in a van down by the river.
Nice.
Yeah, man, I grew up in church. At home, my dad had a whole huge record collection, so we listened to, ABBA, Fleetwood Mac. just
Sweet.
anything and everything. But at church, it was Christian. So I mean, I think my first concert was like Sandy Patty.
Hell
Nice.
But as like a 5-year-old or something, it was incredible. I saw that you guys had Small Town Poets, or you had done this kind of an episode on that. That was also one of my first shows. They came to our church,
nice.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
small little
wow.
Baptist church in Clinton, Mississippi. That was formative. I mean, because they were a band, right? You know, they weren't Sandy Patty. They weren't playing the tracks. Like they were just rock, and there was like smoke, and I did not listen to any country music like Ty. You know, I grew up listening to early 90s stuff, you know, rock, not Nirvana, I mean, all that. But I also it's like I had two sides. I also loved Stephen Curtis Chapman, right? Michael W. I mean, like that whole genre. And then DC Talk's Jesus Freak came out, and that sort of pivoted everything.
Yeah.
It just changed. I didn't stop listening to Nirvana or any of that stuff. But it definitely shifted into like, I mean, I think they just started what we saw in the early aughts and late 90s in Christian music. So, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of connected those dots, right? If
Absolutely.
you had these two different worlds on each side, that sort of fused them together for you.
Yep. Totally. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, you did it, man. You found them and you decided like, hey, you know what? I like this because it's the best of both worlds.
It is.
I'm just articulating what you like intuited. So great job. Good ear.
That's
Good ear.
that's TJ's superpower on the shows. Sweet. So I'm so excited to talk more about popularity and Jonezetta as a whole. But before we get into the album track by track, I do want to toss it over to Josh and TJ a little bit. And then I want to talk to you guys about like, what's your relationship with Jonezetta? Why are we doing Junezetta? Why, you know, this is kind of internally, right? Like this is like kind of a big band for all of us, right?
I mean, I'm not going to put him on the spot, but this is a wish list record for TJ. So I
That's right.
think
True.
he should lead us off.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was getting at. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah. Cat's out of the bag. It's a wish list for me. This is huge. I'm super excited to have y'all on the show and to dig into this album and learn about it, like what it was like to record it. So this is a real treat. If we were not recording this, I would still be having just as great a time. Just having this conversation with you guys would be a gift. So thank y'all. Basically, y'all were one of the formative bands. Y'all were like one of those bands that felt like mine. Like, you know, like you're talking about DC Talk, that you know, you found them and you were like, oh, this is something really special to me. And I don't really know, like, I don't know what your experience was with it, Kyle, but whether or not you had other people that were like all super into it, like you had a group of friends or not, like you guys for me were a band that I didn't know if anybody else knew y'all, liked you. And it didn't matter. I was like, objectively, this band slaps. They're great.
Same.
And it was just like, it was done. As soon as I heard y'all, I was like, I'm going to be a big fan for as long as this band exists. Anything they do, I'm on board for it. And a big part of that was, I don't remember which years, but of the handful of times I went to Cornerstone, you guys, I want to say I saw you twice. I don't know if you all can confirm whether you played Cornerstone multiple years or not, but
We did.
oh man,
We played 06, 07, and 08.
Okay, so yes, it would have been 07 and 08. And man, those are some great shows. And that just that was like that became like a core memory for me, of just you guys tearing it up at Cornerstone. And I know you also went on tour with Tyler Reed. I did not get to go to that any of those shows, but oh my God, I also felt similarly about Tyler Reed. And so
Oh, nice.
the fact that y'all also were connected to As Cities Burn, which is also a big band for us on the show, as y'all know. But for me personally, that connection, all of those connections were just like really important. And I loved all of your sounds, and I thought they were so unique and authentic. Like none of y'all were trying to sound like each other. You were trying to do your own thing. but you all worked together in harmony, sort of. So it was just this kind of excellent era of music where I found these bands like y'all that I was just like, this is good stuff. It's original and it's something really special. So just massive thanks for doing what you do right off the bat. And I'm excited to dig into the record.
It's awesome.
This is the part of the show that we often call gassing up the guests.
Yep.
That's what
we
we do.
love to do it.
Yeah, we
That's
really
what
do.
we're all about.
Yeah. So, Josh, I want to hear
That's
from
awesome.
you a little bit about what is your history with this band, Jonezetta?
Unfortunately, my history doesn't go as far back as TJ or Kylan, which is good because I think Kylan will bring us back up at the end. For some reason, I must have just missed or gotten every other Tooth and Nail like sampler and music video compilation that y'all weren't on because I wasn't.
It was most of them we weren't on.
Yeah.
What were they doing that to y'all for? Yeah,
He's
I don't know why.
Josh is secretly calling us out, Kylan. You realize that, right?
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
We
For
messed
sure.
up.
For sure.
no,
We didn't turn
no,
you
no.
on to them.
Yeah, well, no,
I
Kylan
don't know.
actually did. It wasn't until I met
Oh,
Kylan in
good job,
2009. I remember one of the few times that we went to Mardell together in Arlington when we went to DBU was you bought Popularity. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I remember you being super psyched about it. So
Yeah,
I was
dude.
like, oh, okay, cool. And so that was like, I think one of my first exposure into Jonezetta. And then I'm finding y'all's CDs a little bit later on and getting them like used and getting a little bit more into Cruel to Be Young, if I may tease that for next week. But so my history with Jonezetta is a little more recent in getting into y'all.
Ah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Ty and Kyle, if y'all will just indulge with us a little bit longer, I'm going to talk about my history with Jonezetta and why I think you guys are one of the greatest rock bands of all time.
Yeah, say it. Come on. I knew it was coming.
Okay,
It's true.
I have two pretty major like anecdotes, essentially, right? So I saw Jonezetta. I saw you guys twice in 2007. I first saw y'all, and this is wild because I vaguely remembered seeing you guys at the music hall in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I think they played with As Cities Burn, which is wild. We did this whole As Cities Burn deep dive, and ACB is like one of my favorite bands. And I don't think I brought this up at all because at that point I did not care about ACB. But so I looked online and I confirmed that. Well, what's the date? August 28th, 2007. You guys played the Fayetteville Music Hall with Mayday Parade, As Cities Burn, and Alisana.
Yep.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, yes.
Fucking loved that show. And I had never I had never listened to Jonezetta until that show, and you guys just like blew my mind. And like to this day, I don't remember As Cities Burn playing that show. And they were touring on Come Now Sleep, I think. at
Yeah,
that
they
point.
were.
And
Wow.
I'm like,
They
I'm
took,
so,
my God.
like,
They took
I'm so
all your
mad at
mental
myself.
bandwidth.
Yeah. Well, and so the thing is,
That's so
we
funny.
talk about this a lot on the show. Like, I don't remember. Like, I've been to so many shows so long ago. Like, I don't remember seeing bands.
Yeah, Josh
But-
has called Kylan out for forgetting
But, like,
that he's seen
multiple
bands
times.
live.
with me. Yeah.
But Jonezetta, I like fully remembered, which is why I think like when Josh and I went to Mardell, I was like, oh, well, we should get this
That's what I'm
Jonezetta
getting.
CD.
Yeah.
And then that same year, I saw you guys at the Village in Little Rock with Anne Berlin
Mm-hmm.
and Daphne Loves Derby and Analog Rebellion. I don't remember Analog Rebellion being there.
That sounds like a one-off.
Yeah, they were occasionally we would have shows that like just one band would randomly join it, and that.
Right.
But yeah, we definitely toured with Anne Berlin and Daphne Loves Derby
which is so rad. I've been trying to. We're trying to have Jason Call from Daphne Loves Derby on the show at some point too.
Nice.
It'd be really fun. But I remember that because Amberlin was doing cities at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That was
once
the Cities tour.
again, like you guys blew my freaking mind. But my favorite anecdote. So listeners of this show will know I often talk about how my wife has zero connection to any of the music that we talk about on this show.
Yours and mine both.
And
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
and
I think we're all of one accord here.
Yeah.
but I started talking about that we were going to talk to you guys, and she was like, Jonezetta, like that name sounds really familiar. I think I've seen that band, but I don't remember when, I don't remember where. I think it was at the Door in Dallas around like 2006. And so, we started looking up like concert archives and stuff. And come to find out, she saw y'all on the Tooth and Nail tour, which
I remember
was
that show.
what it was.
Yep,
Emery,
me
Emery,
Classic
Anberlin,
Crime.
Classic Crime, far less.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh.
Okay. So it was
Nice.
like all bands that we've covered on this show that I've talked to her about multiple times, and she has zero recollection, but she's like, I remember Jonezetta. And so,
What is it about when they
think-
play?
Yeah,
People don't
so-
remember
I'll
other
leave an
bands.
impression, man.
So, you guys get the Kylan's wife CJN stamp of
Stamp
approval
of
of
approval.
bands that she
Wow.
remembers. She doesn't remember any of these other bands that like we've talked about on this show like multiple times. But she's like, oh, Jonezetta, I remember seeing them. They were really good. I was like, well, hell yeah, man. So I was really excited to just share those two anecdotes.
She probably just remembers Robert, our lead singer.
Yeah.
Who is the memorable one?
He's a memorable guy.
He was a memorable one.
Yeah.
And in all of our years, Ty and I have never been noticed before. Like, oh, you guys are in a. Are you in? No, never. Out, not once.
We used to have this joke that like this was back in our earlier years, but like I was like, no one even knows the name of the band I'm in. They just go, hey, you're that guy in Robert's band.
Yeah.
It's his band. You're
the
just
number
in it.
the number of times I got
backing
that.
band.
Hey, aren't you that guy in Robert's band? Like the number of times I got that
That's
is insane.
great. Yeah. No, that's very real. I feel like that's a trope at this point. That's a meme.
Sure.
Which
Oh,
is
man.
partly why this show exists, because
It's true.
you guys are the people that we want to talk to, because
true.
you're our people. Kiss me?
What?
Kiss me.
Kiss me. No, that's a kid's room.
Oh, we're not talking about Sixpence None the Richer's anniversary CD and vinyl?
We could.
And if you want to.
That's called hijacking an ad, guys.
Wow. 2 ads for the price of 1. No, I want to talk to you guys about one of my favorite artists and a release that Kyle and I have been chatting about this past weekend. But Dustin Kensrue's Desert Dreaming is
Ooh,
foray into
yes.
country music, if you will.
Well,
Kyle maybe won't for other reasons that we've discussed, not at length, but we need to discuss soon on this show.
yeah. We'll talk about it. But Dustin Kensrue's new album, Desert Dreaming.
Which I am thoroughly enjoying. And can I just say, as someone who has the vinyl, it is a beautiful vinyl record. The artwork on it is great.
And it's double-sided,
It's
right?
reversible. Yeah, so the
Ooh.
cover is the night version of the artwork, and then you flip it over, it's the day version, which is great. So you can kind of, whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling like a day, feeling like a night, just however you want to display it. So it's a great vinyl package. The lyrics, and they got like little symbols for each record and everything like that. So I've been really enjoying it. But you know what's even greater than just that record?
What?
Let me guess, paying full price.
Well, I mean, you can to support Dustin. I support him. He's a great guy.
Look, I've got 6 pence. I'm none the richer, Josh. So
Well, if you only have 6 pence, that may be enough to get
Okay.
this record with our exclusive discount code.
what is it?
Well, to get that, you just use your fingers Is that right? Is that what
Hashtag use your fingers.
use your fingers. And go to CollideRecords.com and enter in Church Jams Now, all one word, at checkout. And you'll get 20% off. And you can bring home your own copy of Desert Dreaming CD or vinyl, or some of Dustin's other stuff, whether it's his solo stuff or in Thrice, to your home, shipped quickly and carefully from CollideRecords.com.
That's right. And guys, all joking aside, go listen to Desert Dreaming and buy it because it's really good. I have some nitpicks because I'm a country music nerd, but if it gets anyone into country music, that's a win in my book.
Okay.
So go to colliderecords.com, buy Desert Dreaming, and type in Church Jams Now at checkout for 20% off.
Jammers out there, if you're listening to this show and you want to support Church Jams Now, a great way to do that is to just get on your podcast listening app of choice and rate and review us. And you know what? We've had a couple new reviews lately. 5 stars, I might add. If that's not, is that a brag? Is that a brag?
It is. It is.
Okay. It's a humble brag.
Okay,
but it's okay.
Is. I mean, but it's also true.
Right.
We got an awesome review from Jay Fountai. It's JFOUNTAI. It's very fancy. It's very French. And it says, great show, 5 stars. I always look forward to seeing what band or album will be featured on this week's show. Gives me something great to listen to as I travel. And the nostalgia is amazing. Growing up as a tooth and nail kid in the 90s and early 2000s, it doesn't get much better than this. I like that they have fun with the show, and they're not cynical and bitter, like another show I won't mention.
Ooh, what show is
So
that?
We don't
Serial?
know.
We don't. Yep, that's probably it. Something NPR did, probably.
Thanks, Jim. I mean,
Thanks.
I don't want to reveal your identity.
Jay Fountai, yeah.
Jay Fountai.
You may or may not be Jim out there, but thank you for that wonderful 5-star review.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you like that review, you can leave one of your own, and then we can read it.
So, Ty and Kyle, I want to just talk to y'all briefly about what's your history with the band Jonezetta? What do y'all remember about it? But I do have a specific question I do want to get to of, going into recording this album, I would like to talk briefly about like your headspace and where you guys were at as a band and individually, going into recording this album.
Man, gosh, Ty, I mean, I going into the recording of this album was fraught. I mean, I hate to start the podcast like that. Is that even appropriate?
Of course.
Ty, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I mean, we had an auxiliary keyboard player that passed away in December, the month before Popularity was recorded. I believe it was Popularity was recorded in January, right? 2006.
Yeah, January 1. No, yeah, January 1, 2006 is when we went to
he
Nashville to
passed
start
away.
recording.
I believe it was the 17th of December.
Yeah.
I think it was 17th. But so, man, our headspace was all messed up. I mean, there's arguments to be said that some of us in the band never really recovered. When people ask like, why isn't Jonezetta a thing anymore? A lot of people point back to that. It really messed us up because not that Tim, not that he didn't start the band. He kind of came in really to help us become a band. I mean, we were a joke. I mean, we literally started as a joke. We weren't those super serious emo kids at all. We were like just wanting to have fun. You can kind of hear that in the music. A lot of it got produced out. Some of the fun got produced out of it, but
enough was in there. I can say.
Okay, you get good. Yeah, but we did feel. Still, we had to go on. I mean, at that point, it sounds a bit romantic a little. We wanted to do it for Tim. We wanted to
totally.
We wanted to get in there and do it. We recorded the whole record. Not recorded. We wrote the whole record in Arkansas, in Camden. That's where Tim's family's from, and Tim had a property there that we were able to do that in. So he's all over the record. He's in it. he not physically, but he's in those songs. So
Yeah, his influence and his like
Influence.
musical, his musical prowess is all over those songs.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
because for
amazing.
us, we didn't know what we were doing. As Cities Burn manager had heard us and said, "You guys are good. You guys should take this a little bit more seriously and do something with it." And so we kind of sort of did that. And then when Tim came along, again, an acquaintance with As Cities Burn, who they were best friends. Those guys.
Yeah, there's the song Timothy, right? Is
That's right.
an ode to him.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a big effect on a lot of people. He was a cool dude.
Mm.
But when he was between tours, if I'm not mistaken, and we were needing kind of an auxiliary guy. And so Tim, who I think was just come off with like the Rejects.
Yeah,
and
he did with All American Rejects.
So when
Yeah.
when he was coming on with us, we were like, dude, we're barely a band. Like, but he was just he didn't care.
Mm.
He just came in and he was just ready to go, just to play and to record. And I mean, yeah, he was truly an artist. Like he had music in his bones and taught me a lot about that. I guess I remember him. One of the big things we did a lot in Camden, because there's not much to do there, was just drive around and listen to music. I mean, he introduced me to like half of everything I know about music.
Wow.
So I'm going on a tangent. Ty, you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just just to kind of piggyback off of you, like, yeah, Tim, in the grand scheme of things, we only knew the guy for a handful of months, like 3 or 4 months. Like he was in our band for 3 or 4 months.
Yep.
But just like the impact he had was lasting. I mean, to this day, like
it like rippled out quite a bit.
Yeah, I can't listen to popularity without thinking about moments with Tim. Like,
Of course.
and yeah, it was a real question when he died if we were even going to continue. Just because, and which is kind of a weird, like a crazy question to be asking, because we had already done so much without him. Like, a vast majority of our history was without Tim. And like, the demos we recorded that got us a record deal with Tooth and Nail, all of that was done without Tim. But like, he was just, he impacted us so much that like, we felt like we couldn't go on without him.
Yeah.
And it was really his dad, like at Tim's funeral, saying like, Tim would want you guys to continue. Tim would want you guys to not skip a beat.
Right.
And so we didn't, we didn't postpone anything. And in hindsight, maybe we should have taken time to grieve before we just jumped right in.
Process things.
Yeah, process but we just jumped right into recording. And I think at the time, like, that felt like the right thing to do. It felt like the way to sort of get our minds off the heaviness of it.
Mm.
But at the same time, like it didn't really allow us the space to really deal with it.
Well, and I mean, a lot of people certainly. It's going to depend on each individual, but
yeah,
I know a lot of artists, like, all they can do is write and create whenever they're going through the process of grief. And so, I would be curious to hear from either of y'all about, though maybe quote unquote rushing into the recording process may have had an impact on how you grieved or processed things, that was maybe not ideal on some levels. I'm wondering if maybe also, like, if there were some moments that were really sweet and were really cathartic or even painful, but true and good, like, as a part of the recording process that enabled you to work some of those feelings out or express yourself on a certain level. And maybe, maybe that's a question more for Robert or something, but I'm sure you two both have your own experience with that as well. So yeah, I'd love to hear about that. If you feel like wading into a tricky and heavy question. If you don't, that's okay too.
I don't remember any cathartic sweet moments. I mean, at the time I was 19. I didn't know how to properly grieve. I knew we had a record deal with Tooth and Nail. I knew we had the Tooth and Nail tour starting in March of 2006. It was how does a 19-year-old hold the weight of one of your best friends dying with this incredible opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was tough, but go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't know that I remember any like sweet moments from that. I mean, not that it was like all of a bummer. Like Kyle said, it was just this really weird like mixture of emotion. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm sad that my friend Tim isn't here with me, but also like, man, I can't believe I'm standing in a multi-million-dollar studio in Nashville, Tennessee, recording a record that's going to be put out on Tooth and Nail Records.
Yeah.
Like this is 16-year-old Ty's dream. Like,
Yeah.
and it's all coming true. And like, yeah, so there was this conflict of like feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I don't know that I knew how to like let those feelings sort of like mingle with each other, you know, like
Mm.
Right.
I kind of compartmentalized them, you know, and I would go be
Yeah.
sad for a little bit and then I would, you know, go be happy for a while, you know.
Mm-hmm. So there was kind of a swing, like a dichotomous experience, less than
I think
like a blending of the things.
Yeah. For me
Yeah.
personally.
And something that I was just thinking about, Ty, I mean, it really truly was like are we going to keep going? For a lot of reasons, I mean, that are obvious, but one that isn't obvious is the fact that he gave us so much confidence. He was a real,
Yes.
he was a real musician. I mean, this dude had just played on Letterman like the week before we met him or something. He was
Wow.
real. And so for him to come into our band, and then it gave Robert a huge boost because of he just knew how to write songs. He knew how a song should be crafted. He had been in studios. He was the real deal.
He was everything we weren't. Like
Mm-hmm.
as far as like musician
Yeah.
and like experience and everything. Like he was everything
100%.
we wanted to be, but we weren't him at all.
And so, yeah, when he passed, it was like, how can we go on? We don't know how to record. Like, we don't know what to do. Like I think,
Yeah, like Tim's not here to walk us through this. How are we
That's
going
right.
to do it?
yeah, we're not good enough if in a way. We're just a bunch of dudes from Mississippi that put together a few songs, but with Tim in our band, with Tim in our promo shots, we look real. We look like a band, and like we could kind of hang our hat on that. But so that was a big part of it.
Legitimized you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ty, if y'all want to hear a quick anecdotal story, Ty's our storyteller in the band, but Ty, tell the quick story of when we sat down. This was before the record contract had been sold. We met with Brandon Ebel in Nashville.
Yeah.
And Tim came along, and we sat down at dinner, and then me, Ty, and Robert, of course, were just like stone cold. We didn't know what to say. We didn't know what to ask. We were just like, yes, Brandon. Yes,
Yeah.
we will
Yeah.
sign. We will sign your papers. Whatever you. Okay, a 17 record contract. That's fine. We'll sign it.
Yeah. You don't want to
didn't
give us any
matter.
money? That's okay.
We don't. We'll pay you.
here.
Yeah, we're just happy to be here.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And Tim, of course, being the guy with the experience, and also just like Tim had this way of like, he was always like the most charming guy in the room. Like everyone that like met him and talked to him immediately loved him.
Yeah.
But he also like, he was fearless in conversation with it. Like he didn't care who you were, so like we're all sitting there at dinner, just awestruck by the fact that we're sitting at a table with Brandon Ebel. Tim does not give a crap. And like, and so while we're all like, yes, sir, Mr. Brandon, like, thank you for having us. And Tim straight up just looks at him and goes, hey, I got a question. Why does everyone I know that's on Tooth and Nail hate being on your label?
Right out of the gates. Right out of the gates.
Yeah, like we had just gotten our waters,
It's an icebreaker.
It's going to be an awkward dinner.
Yeah.
What Brandon
That's
say?
awesome.
I mean, like I remember Brandon like kind of like giving like a nervous laugh and then like looking at us and looking at our manager, Ryan Rado, and like pointing at Tim being like, who is this guy? And we're like, this is Tim. Like this is
But did Brandon appreciated it, didn't he?
Oh yeah, Brandon loved the fact that Tim would like just come out and say that to him.
Yeah.
And the awkwardness finally lifted because there was a silence at the table, and then all of a sudden, Brandon was like, "I like this guy," and I was like, "Oh,
good.
We have a chance."
That's awesome.
That's so good.
Oh, wow. So going into recording Tim really bolstered you guys. And even though you were dealing with the loss, it was also like you wanted to move forward and honor him a little bit, and you were using that momentum that he gave you. And what a gift, right? Like you said, he was a real musician, played Letterman, was doing stuff with the All American Rejects. Like that must have been huge for y'all, just to have a confidant and like a comrade in arms, in a sense, that you also looked up to. That just feels like an amazing experience to get to have going into recording a record, though also paired with this grief and real loss of a true friend.
Mm.
Yeah, I think what Kyle said is just kind of nailed it in this. Like, we had this sense of like, we have to do this for Tim. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like we've got to do this the best we possibly can for Tim.
Well, we're also really glad that you did. I think we speak for a lot of people when we say, like, at least I'll speak for myself. This record is a gift, and
TJ,
it's so great.
Speak for a lot of people.
I'll speak for a lot of people. Popularity slaps, y'all, and
So
I can't wait to get into it. So
yeah, typically in our show, this is the point where we give our predictions on whether the album that we're covering is a flop or a bop. But we've ostensibly decided to like forego that when we have people that made the album, because that could potentially lead to some awkwardness. But I don't
also in this case, it would just be absurd to ask the question. I think we all know.
I don't think that's the case here. This album's a fucking bop. Okay, before we get into the album, we're going to move on to my favorite part of the show. I often say this. So Josh is our resident research guy, and he will give us some facts, some context about the album that we're covering. But the reason it's my favorite is anytime we have people that actually made the album, I want you to be on your toes and to instantly call Josh out if he gets anything wrong. We put Josh in the hot seat to tell us about the album. So, Josh, what do you have for this?
All right. So we already have Kyle and Ty here. And we've already mentioned Robert, but we also have Mick Parsons on drums. Popularity, the album, was released October 3rd of 2006. It is y'all's first LP on Tooth and Nail, as we've already talked about. Producer was Steve Wilson. It was mixed by J.R. McNeely and Steve Wilson, and it was mastered by Troy Glessner, friend of the show.
Nice.
Actually, don't know that I would have known that.
On the CD. Charts and performance, it debuted on Billboard Christian at number 26. Pretty good showing, guys.
Yeah,
pretty
really
solid.
Biggest band in the world.
Love whenever, so big. I love whenever there's like fun songwriting credits for like publishing companies. And y'all's for this record is This Isn't a Contest, which I always love.
That's great.
This Isn't a Contest publishing.
Excellent.
And then I did find one fun thing. I found a picture of the CD that had the hype sticker on it, and I prepared to read it if you would like to hear it. The hype sticker goes on the CD. Remember when music was fun but clever? When you didn't have to dumb it down to dance to it? Jonezetta is here to rejuvenate a pop landscape that is forgotten. You can have fun and brains too, and all without taking yourself too seriously. This Mississippi band's Tooth and Nail debut popularity is full of mood and atmosphere, with hooks that slice through the log the way song titles like Get Ready, Hot Machete would suggest. I think that sums up the album pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.
You can have fun and a brain too.
Which is why this totally makes sense as a TJ wish list record.
Yep. Nope.
Thanks for noticing that I've got a brain, Kyle, and I appreciate that.
And you like to have fun.
You're the big brain guy.
Big brain guy.
I mean, we love your body on the show, but we're also glad you have a brain.
Hey, the facts were good. That all tracks. Ty, sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had. I think I would have known J.R. McNeely mixed it. No clue who would have mastered it. So I'm learning something.
Troy Glessner just putting his mastering. Yeah, that mastering's awesome.
Okay, well, Ty, to be fair, so like we interviewed Troy on the show, and I can almost guarantee you he also doesn't remember mastering this album.
I don't doubt
He
it.
does like 3 albums a week.
Yeah, he said similar things about like massive projects that he worked
Yeah.
on, like of all scopes. He was just like, oh yeah,
So
it was great.
You mastered They're Only Chasing Safety by Under Oath. He's like, I did.
I did.
He's like, okay, cool.
He's like, that's cool.
yeah.
Thanks.
Was that a big record? I don't know.
Oh, that sounds good. Glad I did a good job.